A lot of people really do not seem to enjoy working on group projects. In fact, a lot of people seem to really get a sense of dread when they learn that they're going to have to complete a group project. And that really is a shame, because a group project can be one of the most valuable things for you to put on your resume, and it can be one of, if not the most valuable talking point for you when you interview for jobs. And the main complaint you hear people give about group projects is that they end up with lazy team members that don't do their fair share of work. And now, honestly, that just is not a reasonable expectation for you to have of your teammates. The fact of the matter is that most people just are not hard workers. So most people aren't going to do their fair share of work. Well, not without proper guidance, that is. People are either followers or leaders. I would guess that about 99% of people are followers and 1% of people are leaders. Now, those followers, those people that are naturally followers, given the right circumstances, they will lead. And the same goes for that 1% of people that are leaders. Under the right circumstances, they will follow if there's a stronger leader. Now, where most groups fail when working on a group project, it's either with a total lack of leadership, or it's with someone acting in a leadership role when they really aren't a natural leader, or they just really don't want to be the leader. And they're only leading out of necessity because nobody else stepped up. In any group, there is always going to be a leader. Even if it's just your group of friends hanging out, one of you is the leader and the rest of you are followers. That's just how it is. Animals are like this. Humans are like this. There's always a leader in every group, in every setting. Someone will act as the leader. So here's what you have to do if you want to achieve success on your group project. You have to step up and be the leader that your team needs. Now, you probably saw that coming from a mile away, didn't you? And look, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You're thinking, but I'm not a natural leader. How am I going to be the leader of my whole group project? Well, even if leadership isn't something that comes natural to you, you still can learn to take charge and be the leader in any group situation. And I'm going to give you some practical tips on how you can become the leader of your group in your group project. Tip number one is that you've got to be the idea guy. And here's what I mean by that. You have to be the guy that comes up with all of the ideas that your group actually ends up working on. In any group project, there's going to be probably a lot of different ideas thrown around, and only a couple, maybe even only one of those ideas, it depends on the project, but only some of those ideas are going to make the cut. Your ideas are going to be the ones that make the cut. And how do you do that? I know some of you are thinking, well, what if my team just doesn't like my ideas the most? Well, you're going to convince your team that your ideas are the best. You shouldn't do that unless your ideas actually are the best. But your ideas should be the best, actually. And how you're going to do that is, it's simple. As long as you really put in the time and you spend more time on it than anyone else in your team, your idea is going to be the best. And now you still may be worried about, well, I'm not a good talker, so I'm not confident in my ability to convince my team members that my idea is the best, even if it is. Well, here's the thing. If you have put in that time to really develop the best ideas, then you are naturally going to be very confident in your idea. So when it comes time for a group meeting and you're talking to your team about your ideas, you are going to be so confident, truly confident in your idea, that there is no way they will not be convinced. Tip number two, you've got to be the master of assignment. Now, what I mean by this is that anytime a new assignment gets posted, You are going to be the first to read over that assignment and get a true, deep understanding of that assignment and what the objectives are based on that assignment. And you are going to explain that assignment and its objectives to the rest of your team. Now, when you do this, this is naturally going to foster within your teammates a deep sense of respect for your leadership. Tip number 3. You want to be the person in your group that is arranging all of the team meetings. So you want to be the person that texts or calls everybody else in the group, find out their schedules on a weekly basis if need be, and really sets up all of those group meetings. The reason that this is a good way to exercise your leadership is just the fact that this is one of those jobs that has to be done. So as a leader, you're going to be the one that volunteers to do that job. Also, just sort of with the way that you are arranging all of the meetings, that just is naturally going to put the idea in everyone's mind that you in some way have some sort of authority over them, which you don't actually, but it's just sort of a way that's going to convince them that you are the leader of your group. Tip number 4, and listen up closely because this one is probably the most important of all. Tip number 4 is that you have to be the one in your group that volunteers to do all of the more difficult jobs. So in every group project, there's a bit of busy work, there's some relatively simple tasks, and then there are some things that are really daunting, some things that are definitely what would be considered the more difficult work for that project. As a leader, you have to be the one that volunteers to do the majority of that most difficult work. And the reason this is so important is kind of obvious. Just the fact that you're doing all of the most difficult work is going to automatically make everyone on your team have just the utmost respect for you. Last but not least, we have tip number 5. You want to be the spokesperson for your group. And what that means is you're going to be the point of contact between your group and the professor or the teaching assistants or whoever it may be that outside of your group that your group needs to communicate with. Now, another thing that this means is that when it comes time for your group to give a presentation, you need to be the one doing most of the speaking. Most likely, you're going to want to start off the presentation, and you're also going to want to hopefully end the presentation as well. And it's always a pretty good idea to just do the entire presentation by yourself. And the reason I say this is that when you have 4 or 5 people all doing one single presentation, just the transition between different people in a presentation tends not to flow as well as just one person speaking the whole way through. And if you are the spokesperson for your group, your professor and probably the rest of your classmates, the other student teams, are all going to recognize you automatically as the leader of your team. So there you have it. I have explained to you the number 1 reason that most group projects do not succeed. That reason being that most student teams have a severe lack of leadership. And following that, I gave you some practical tips on how you can assume the leadership role in your team and lead your team to the success that you want to achieve. And after you've achieved that success, you're going to be able to put that project on your resume, and you're going to be able to talk about that project in detail when you interview for jobs, whether that be internships or full-time jobs after you graduate. So if you like the advice in this video, please click that thumbs up button to like, and also please subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. Thanks for watching.